Bryan, I know you follow boxing closely. Errol Spence said he's going to take the rematch with Terence Crawford. But is there anything that Errol Spence could hang his hat on to say, oh, well, I'll win the rematch?
One thing, the rematch he wants is specifically at 154 pounds, super welterweight.
Anderson Silva is closer to 50 years old than Jake Paul is to 30 years old, which is another reason why this fight is happening.
Errol Spence has been trying for a while to move up in weight because that is a deep weight cut to 147 for him at welterweight. It's always been a tough one, and it gets tougher as he gets older. He's a little bit younger than Terence Crawford, but they're both in their mid-30s and fights a more physically taxing style.
He put on a lot of muscle mass. He was 247, 8 pounds lighter than he's going to be for this fight.
One fight that you would want to have before officially hanging them up, who would that be against and why?
Katie Taylor in Dublin.
Ooh. Jermaine Franklin, on the other hand, was about 257 when he fought Dillian White in November. He slimmed down to 233, which means he's probably planning to take this fight to deep waters. That being said, I still would lean an over on the rounds.
Plus 210 is a great number to get Dustin Poirier by stoppage. Justin Gaethje's been knocked out specifically twice in his career and has also tapped out before.
Arguably the greatest rivalry in boxing, Puerto Rico versus Mexico. It's given us everything. Endless world championships, pound for pound glory, sold out arenas, stadiums, millions watching at home, and people still arguing about these fights and those behind them to this day. Let's look at the top 10 fights that define this long, brutal, competitive, and sometimes respectful rivalry between Puerto Rico and Mexico.
Terence Crawford can beat you in more ways. He's a better counterpuncher. He's a better defensive fighter. He can switch orthodox and southpaw, give you different looks. He's actually better at switching stances than anyone in boxing right now.
What's the biggest misconception about mustaches?
Most misconceptions are actually true. People will think that you're hot. People will think that you're from the 80s. People will...
When you try to get in this airspace, he's so smart at just keeping you at distance, using his jab, which will be difficult to land against a southpaw, and he'll probably establish a straight right hand and has great body work as well. And I think those body shots will be able to keep Lomachenko from doing all the Lomachenko stuff and getting near and moving and switching angles and things of that nature.
What's the wackest song you've heard in the ring that an opponent came out to?
Beethoven.
I think Devin Haney's going to neutralize him over the course of time, and I do think it's going to be a close fight. You'll probably see some 115, 113s or 116, 112s, but ultimately I think Devin Haney wins at some points.
And I'll probably wait after the first couple rounds, see if I can get Terence Crawford live for that extra value.
Is this the biggest test of Paul's career?
Yes, because it's the only guy that has actual boxing experience that he's fought. Ben Askren wasn't even a striker in MMA. Tyron Woodley is one of these wrestlers who discovered he had power, then wanted to start knocking people out, not a boxer.
One of the most heated boxing rivalries of the 21st century featured the much anticipated rematch between Miguel Cotto and Antonio Margarito in 2011. The first time they fought was in the summer of 2008, where Cotto, then 32-0 with 26 knockouts and the number 6 pound-for-pound fighter in the world, was defending his WBA welterweight title against Margarito, then 36-5 with 26 knockouts. The bout took place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, with Cotto entering as a 2-1 betting favorite, and Margarito won with a surprisingly dominant 11th round TKO. However, before his title defense against Shane Mosley 6 months later, it was revealed that Margarito was caught with illegal hand wraps reportedly containing plaster of Paris, which would illegally add more power in his gloves. Mosley subsequently manhandled Margarito, who was suspended for a year afterwards. But in late 2011, over 3 years after their first battle, Cotto wanted and needed revenge. Cotto entered the fight 36-2 with 29 knockouts and the WBA Super World Champion at junior middleweight. Margarito, 38-7 with 27 knockouts, was a 3-time welterweight titleist looking to regain his championship medal. The fight itself, held at Madison Square Garden in Cotto's home away from home, played out like the first one in terms of pacing, but Margarito noticeably wasn't quite as strong as he had been years prior. Cotto, with one of the most complete performances of his career, captured possibly his most satisfying victory ever, shutting Margarito's right eye entirely and taking home a 9th round stoppage victory in a blowout.
The B stands for boxing.